Psalm 137. By the rivers of Babylon we sat and wept, when we remembered Zion. On the poplars we hung our harps, and there the captors asked us for songs. Our tormentors demanded songs of joy. They said, "Sing us one of the songs of Zion." How can we sing the songs of the Lord while in a foreign land? If I forget you, Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you, if I do not consider Jerusalem on my highest joy. Remember, Lord, what the Edomites did on the day Jerusalem fell. Tear it down, they cried, tear it down to its foundations. Daughter Babylon, doomed to destruction, happy is the one who repays you, according to what you have done to us. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thank you, Fia. I know that went dark. I promise there's a reason. Good morning, church. My name is Kelly. I'm the lead pastor here. What a joy it is to be together on this holiday weekend. I want to tell you a story that you may already know. In 1953, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay became the first people to summit Mount Everest. Do you have my picture? There they are. What most people don't know is how many routes the expedition team tried to avoid before they found the one that worked. And I think we have another picture of them now, or at least recently. There they are now. Isn't that cute? There's a section of the climb. First of all, has anyone in here climbed Mount Everest? Stop. If so, we need to talk. But there's a section of the climb called Icefall. This is a cascading, unstable river of ice and crevices that sits right at the base of the mountain, okay? It's one of the most dangerous sections of the entire climb. Blocks of ice the size of houses shift and collapse without warning. This is what these guys went up against. And many climbers have died in the Icefall before they get to the top. Every serious mountaineer who has ever attempted Everest has looked at the Icefall and asked the same question. It's this: is there another way? Is there another way? Is there a way around? And the answer is there isn't. You cannot go around it. You cannot go over it. You cannot go under it. Y'all, anybody remember this song? You have to go through it. The geometry of the mountain, this is the way it's set up. It does not allow for a detour. If you want to summit, you have to go through the Icefall. Every single time, no exceptions. And here's the really interesting thing that the mountaineers learned. The climbers who tried to rush through it were the most likely to die. The ones who made it were the ones who learned to move slowly, deliberately, through every unstable step. We are in a series called Permission to Feel during a year where we are looking at what it means to live a flourishing life, the abundant life that Jesus came to give us, a life where we are living awake to ourselves, intimately connected to those around us, where we are producing good fruit that lasts. We all want that. Do you want that? I want that. You want that. We want a flourishing life. And we're going through the Psalms as our roadmap for Permission to Feel. Please sign up for our Wednesday night class if you have not done that. We're going to go deeper into the Psalms. We start next week. This week. Wow, we start this week. Please sign up so we can know that you're coming. And this week, as we continue our journey through the Psalms, we are looking at the emotion that we're giving permission to feel, and the emotion is sadness. If you don't have your feelings wheel, you can take one home. I think we still have them around in front of you. But sadness, here are some related emotions: guilty, abandoned, despairing, depressed, lonely, unnoticed, empty, hopeless. Aren't you glad you came this morning? Isn't this fun? We're looking at sadness because here's the thing. Sadness is the Icefall. Sadness is the thing that if you want to flourish, you cannot bypass sadness. Just like the hikers, you can't go over it, you can't go under it, you can't go around it. You have to go through it. And this is really countercultural, of course, because we've talked about how our culture, our Christian culture, wants us to find a way around sadness, find a way around fear, find a way around the negative emotions. But there's no other route around sadness. If the summit is flourishing, we must go through the sadness. And the Bible has a way for us to go through it. It's called lament. Can you say it? Lament. A lament is a complaint to or against God. A lament is to grieve something, to mourn what is lost. And the Psalms shows us that lament is not a lack of faith, it is an act of faith. Lament is not a lack of faith, it's an act of faith. And so a sermon on sadness will certainly be a trigger for some of us who struggle with depression. So let me make a quick disclaimer here before we get into the text on depression. Depression is the clinical term major depressive disorder is a mood disorder characterized by persistent feelings of sadness, emptiness, or hopelessness that significantly interfere with daily functioning. Depression is not the same as ordinary sadness or grief, which I'm talking about this morning. It's a medical condition that involves changes in brain chemistry, thought patterns, and physical functioning. What I am suggesting here this morning is not a substitute. If you are struggling with depression, it's not a substitute for medication or therapy. God's redemptive work in history has given us these tools. I am in therapy every week, not for depression, but for anxiety. And these are resources that God has given us and ways in which God heals us. Amen? So nothing I say this morning is meant to serve as a substitute for those necessary resources. You with me? So the Bible shows us how to lament, however, how to go through the sadness, whether or not you have a diagnosis. Learning to lament as an act of faith will be a healing resource for you, whether or not you have depression. So Psalm 137. By the rivers of Babylon we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. Verse 2, there on the poplars we hung our harps. For there our captors asked us for songs. Our tormentors demanded songs of joy. They said, sing us one of the songs of Zion. So this is obviously a lament psalm. We've told you this throughout this series, but 1/3 of the Psalms are Psalms of lament. 1/3. This is how much the Bible gives you permission to feel, permission to lament. When the Babylonians sacked Jerusalem and destroyed the temple in 597 BC, you know this, Nebuchadnezzar besieged Jerusalem. They took the first wave of captives to Babylon. These were the best and the brightest, actually. They took the craftsmen, the priests, the musicians, the intellectuals, and Psalm 137 is a canonized complaint. It's a canonized complaint. It's written for the community, probably by one of these musicians, and the people are mourning the destruction of Jerusalem. It wasn't just, well, that's sad. They sacked, the temple's gone, Jerusalem's destroyed. It wasn't just that's sad, that's a bummer. No. The temple in Jerusalem was for the Israelites their orienting reality. The existence of the temple told them as the people of God that God loved them, that God was for them, that God was on the throne. My question to you this morning, have you ever lost the one orienting thing in your life? Have you lost the one orienting thing? The thing that made everything else make sense? I have. I've told you all this story, but for those of you who don't know, the day I lost the one orienting thing in my life was the day that my 2-year-old son, Hunter, was carried into a ranch house in West Texas, and his face was so bloody, and he looked such a mess that we couldn't see where the blood was coming from. He had been in a four-wheeler accident. In the hours that followed, we made decisions about, should we life flight him to San Angelo, Texas? Should we drive him? What should we do with this newborn, with this 4-year-old we have? Once we got to the hospital, they hooked Hunter up to all these machines, and I went into this cold, numb-like state. And they were trying to get an IV into his tiny arm, and they were talking to us about internal bleeding and the possibility of brain damage, and I sat here, and I remember whispering to Ben as I watched my baby in the hospital bed. I said to Ben, Ben, he can't suck his thumb. Because that's what he did when he was 2. Like, his lips are so bloody, that's the only thought I could form is, he can't suck his thumb. What's he going to do? And even though Hunter was okay after all of this, there was no brain damage, there was no internal bleeding, it was the best case scenario. Most parents would rejoice at this scenario. His life was spared. He was okay. I was not okay. And the thing that I had oriented my life around up to this point was gone the moment they carried him through those doors. Before this, I really believed if I did all the right things, then I would be able to control what happened. I thought if I was present enough, if I was educated enough, if I worked hard enough, if I was good enough, if I could take care of everyone around me, then I could control what happened. And I thought God would honor that. I thought it was this theology of like, God, I'll do my part if you'll do your part. And on that day, all of that was lost. My belief about the world, my belief about myself, my belief about God. Have you ever lost the one orienting thing in your life? The thing in your life that you built everything else around, the thing that made everything else make sense, and then it's just gone. The temple was not just a building for the Israelites. It wasn't just a worship space. The temple was proof that God was with them, proof that God was for them. When nothing else made sense, they could look towards Jerusalem and remember, God is with us. And then Babylon came and tore it to the ground. It was gone in a moment. And even though they were okay, they were alive, weren't they? They were not okay. So they are sitting in the land of captivity. They are weeping at the river, and they are remembering the old days of Zion. Before the temple was gone, before Jerusalem was sacked. And it would have been like they're looking through, old photos. You know how you do? You're looking through old photos. You're going through old journals as their captors mock them. Sing us the songs of Zion now. The writer goes on, verse 4, how can we sing the songs of the Lord while in a foreign land? If I forget you, Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you, if I do not consider Jerusalem my highest joy. Remember, Lord. Remember what the Edomites did on the day Jerusalem fell. Tear it down, they cried. Tear it down to its foundations. So there's a repeated word here I want to point out to you that's really important for us as we try to become people who feel our feelings instead of numb them, instead of distract. The word here, please look at it in the text. The word is remember. There's a theme of remembrance here and not forgetting. Sometimes we go through hard times or we go through sadness, and there's this cultural temptation to just move on. Just forget about it. Everything turned out okay. It's in the past. Just full speed ahead. But in order to feel and process our feelings, we have to remember and tell the story. The people of God, they don't want to forget Jerusalem. They don't want to forget how she was devastated. They say to the Lord, Lord, remember. It's like pulling up a chair for God as you look at the thing that you've lost. Like, look at the photo together. So they tell the story again and again. And in this song, they're calling to God and to each other to remember. When we lament, we remember what was lost. What are you grieving this morning? Or maybe what do you need to grieve? Maybe it was a marriage. Maybe it was the loss of a future you had organized your whole life around. Maybe it was your faith itself. Maybe it's a version of God you grew up with. Maybe it was a calling. Maybe it's a career, something you gave your whole self to. What are you grieving this morning? Part of your lament must be remembering what happened and telling that story. Not long after Hunter's accident, I started trauma therapy, and my therapist invited me to come to a grief support group. And it was at this little Baptist church in this dark, tiny basement with a bunch of ladies in the middle of the day. And I thought, these women are going to run me out of town. Like, I don't fit in with Baptist ladies in the middle of the day. This is going to be bad. But I thought, well, nothing else is working. I'm not okay. I'm really overwhelmed. I'm disassociated. The kids are driving me crazy. I was diagnosed with anxiety and PTSD, and it was all just too much. So I thought, I'll try this. And the leader had us read this book right here. And I highly recommend it to you. I actually bought 5 or 6 copies. They're available in the library today if anybody wants to pick one up. This is the book we went through. And then this was my journal. They had us get a journal, and they had us do all this journaling. So I taped pictures of Hunter and everything that happened. I can show you later. Won't pass it around. A lot of darkness in here. And we sat in this small circle, and these women were processing divorces and deaths and diagnoses. And one of the questions we answered together was, who or what did I lose that I'm grieving? And so I wrote it down in my journal of what I was grieving, what I felt like I had lost, loss after loss after loss, and I filled these pages. And then the next question was, tell a story about the thing you lost before you lost it. So I wrote about Hunter and when he was born, and when I first met him, and all of this innocence, and his silly personality, and what he was like before the accident. And we went around and we shared, and we were instructed, tell the story of the loss exactly as you remember it. And so I told my story. So this is what I'd love for you to do this week. I would love for you to write a lament. I would love for you to be specific and to use these questions. Are they on the screen? Yeah, there they are. And then I'd love for you to share them with someone in this community who is safe. It was so interesting what happened to me with these Baptist ladies in the middle of the day in this church basement. The experience I had with them was an experience of deep internal healing. I was healed. No one batted an eyelash when I said things like, I feel like God has betrayed me. No one scoffed when I said I didn't trust anything and life was a scam. No one explained to me why I should be happy that my son was okay. They all looked at me and they said, thank you for trusting us. Thank you for sharing with us. They all said, it's okay to not be okay. And I got healed as I told my story, as I remembered, as I learned that lament is an act of faith, not a lack of faith. And this is what the people are doing in Psalm 137 as they sit by the river, as they retell the story of Jerusalem, as they sing the songs, and as they weep. They remember. They remember all that was lost. So this is what we are invited to do with our sadness. This is how the writer ends, and y'all kind of chuckled at this. Verse 8, daughter Babylon, doomed to destruction. Happy is the one who repays you according to what you have done to us being Israel. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. And seen. That's how it ends. That's it. It's significant to note that in this psalm, there is no resolution. There is no pretty bow. This is a protest without a divine response. This is a tantrum with no disciplinary action. There is also, note, no apology or repentance or correction for the revenge-seeking heart of the writer. Right? Don't miss it. The writer here is blessing whoever or whatever nation would attack Babylon, seize their babies, and dash them against the rocks. There's no corrective action that we see that God takes here. But you see, this is what the Bible shows us, that naming the hard things in life together is important. Even when it's hard to hear or hard to say, it's important to name. Do you know one of the strongest predictors for divorce in a marriage? Researcher and relationship expert John Gottman calls it stonewalling. Gottman calls it stonewalling. Stonewalling is emotional withdrawal, shutdown, refusal to engage. It's when one partner checks out of the conversation because the conversation's just too hard. Stonewalling happens when one partner doesn't want to talk about what needs to be talked about. Maybe it's, I'm not happy with our sex life. Maybe it's, I'm concerned with how much you're spending. I'm concerned with how much you're drinking. I'm concerned with how you express your anger. I want to talk about that addiction or that issue or whatever. Stonewalling is being unwilling to engage when things get too hard. Because we don't want to have those conversations. We don't want to be disruptive. It requires too much vulnerability. But the truth is, and how many of you know this, that silence will never heal things. Silence will never heal things. Sin and shame grow in silence. And so God can handle the hard things you need to say regarding your sadness. God can do nothing with your silence. He can handle the hard things. He can do nothing with your sadness. People who stonewall God walk away from church, walk away from spiritual practices, walk away from generosity, walk away from service, but there is another way, and it's lament. If you are stonewalling God this morning, lament can heal your relationship with God. Test me. Test me on it. Lament can heal your relationship with God. The writer here, on behalf of the people, is saying horrible, awful things that he or she is feeling, talking about dashing babies against a rock, but lament is the opposite of stonewalling. I want to close with this clip from Inside Out. We got just a few minutes here. Yes, why have we not watched this?
Oh, the stuffed animal Hall of Fame! My rocket! Wait, Riley and I were still using that rocket. It still has some song power left. Who's your friend who likes to play? No, you can't take my rocket to the top. Riley and I are going to the moon. Riley can't be done with me.
Hey, it's gonna be okay. We can fix this. We just need to get back to headquarters. Which way to the train station?
I had a whole trip planned for us.
Hey, who's ticklish, huh? Here comes the tickle monster. Hey, Bing Bong, look at this. Oh, here's a fun game. You point to the train station and we all go there. Won't that be fun? Come on, let's go to the train station.
I'm sorry they took your rocket. They took something that you loved. It's gone. Forever.
Sadness. Don't make him feel worse.
Sorry.
It's all I had left of Riley.
I bet you and Riley had great adventures.
Oh, they were wonderful. Once we flew back in time. We had breakfast twice that day.
Sadness.
It sounds amazing. I bet Riley liked it.
Oh, she did. We were best friends.
Yeah, it's sad.
I'm okay now. Come on. The train station is this way.
How did you do that?
Inside the mind of an 11-year-old girl named Riley, this would be a great movie for you to go home and watch today, especially in collaboration with this series. You see, what's at stake here, if we don't become a people who know how to sit with sadness, who know how to process grief, who know how to move into lament, is we will become shallow people. I don't know how else to say it. Joy's character, of course, is what the modern American church has tried to do to sadness. Oh, let's go over here and do this fun thing. Let's distract. Let's numb. Come on, let's get moving. Or the American church, will shame you for your sadness, which you saw Joy do that a little bit. Joy's like, come on, you shouldn't feel sad. God is on the throne. Which of course God is on the throne. Of course he is risen. But what God does in response to your lament is actually what the sadness character does. Through the power of the Spirit. What God does is God comes up right next to you, sits beside you, listens to you, and offers you this resource of lament to name what is true and hard and sad. And as we experience this with God, we are able to offer this kind of presence to others. When I talk about, I want us to be a community of God's extravagant love, this is what I mean. When I talk about, I want us to be a safe community, a trauma-informed community, this is what I mean. I want us to be people who can pull up right alongside whatever's hard or sad and talk about it. As we move into our reflection song this morning, I want to invite the band to come up. And the idea with this time that we've given you during this series is just a few moments to not just talk about these things, but to feel these things, to feel the sadness with God. You cannot go around what's sad in your life. You can't go over it. You can't go under it. You have to go through it. And you're invited to go through it, to name what is sad, to feel what is sad, to name what you've lost with a loving God who wants to sit right next to you. And so we're going to spend a few moments doing that now as we move into this song. And can I get my questions back on the screen? Because what I'd love for you to do is to grab your pen and your note card there and journal on these questions. You could also do them in your phone. And if you don't want to do them, you don't have to. But I'd love for you, as we spend this time with God, as we feel and process our sadness, take some time and reflect on these questions, and then we'll move into communion.